Welcome, I'm Gary Parr, Editorial Director, Maintenance Technology Magazine, back with our fifth in a series of interviews with speakers who are presenting at the 2017 Mainstream Conference in Nashville. And we have with us this time Harvey Henkel from the Transalta Generation Partnership. And Harvey's talk is how to build and maintain a world-class condition monitoring team. And Harvey has one of those programs that is long-term, and that to me is the impressive part, Harvey, that you thanks for doing this, that you've been able to sustain a program for a long period of time. But let's look at the beginning. What tripped this thing, what put you on the path and got you going, and then, yes.
Well, it just kind of fell into it, really. I was an electrical supervisor. I'd been an electrician at the power plant for many years, and I became electrical supervisor. And as an electrical supervisor, I worked with many engineers, and some of the engineers were working on a situation where we were having a lot of motor failures, and they seemed to be way outside of the normal amount of motor failures we should have. So they started to study, and actually commissioned a study from another outside electrical engineering firm to determine why we were having these failures. And in the study, they found out that our motors were failing way sooner than the industry average.
So this was initiative by your people to say, wait, we can be better than this.
Yeah.
Rather than just putting out fires, we need to get this on the right track.
Right. And so, as being the electrical supervisor, this engineering firm came to me a lot for a lot of information. And so I was kind of in on the ground floor of that whole study. And some of the ideas that were back in my head already came to fruition through this study, and we realized that we just didn't have a clue how to run our equipment. We were running motors.
Okay.
We were running motors way too hot. We didn't have alarms set where they should be. We really didn't have a clue how we were running our equipment. So it piqued my curiosity, and I started to do some things as an electrical supervisor. And then when the final report came out, our plant manager looked at all the results and said, industry study is 14 years. We're only getting an average of about 8, or a little bit less than 8, I believe it was.
So you're about half of the average.
Yeah. And he said, there's no reason we shouldn't at least get 12 years out of our motors. And he kind of threw that out of there off the cuff, but just that one statement all of a sudden started to build a bunch of momentum.
Gave you the goal.
Right. And then as an electrical supervisor, they started to throw more motors at me because had kind of taken an interest in it. And over the
become the motor guy. Oh
no! So over the next 2 years, all motors got thrown into our domain, and we started to do some electrical testing. That we had been always doing electrical testing, only when they failed, and that was just a yes, it's failed, or no, it hasn't failed type test. We started to take some interest into, what the readings really were. We started to trend them. We started to understand motors, I guess, basically. And and what type of temperatures we could run these motors at if we wanted to actually get to the 12 years of life, not 3 years of life, or like we were getting on some of the motors. And then we realized that through this that we were having a lot of bearing failures that was causing a lot of our issues, not the electrical issue, it was a mechanical issue.
Now we're getting down to the real causes.
Right. And so we hired a contractor to come in and do vibration for us. But they only came in every 6 months, and we get the report, and most people would look at it, throw it in the drawer. But it kind of started to pique our interest in, and we realized that we were having these failures. But most of the times, these failures they'd come, and they would take their readings, and things might be fine. But 4 months later, something happened, and we realized that we had done something during that whole time frame. Maybe we'd done a realignment, or we'd changed something. But we didn't retest after that.
Oh.
So then all of a sudden there was some momentum to actually have an in-house vibration analyst. We did that so that we were able to justify the cost, excuse me, and the reasoning for it, and put the business case together and hired our own vibration analyst.
So now you had someone who could test whenever you needed it.
Exactly. So all of a sudden we had some good electrical testing. We had some good idea of where we wanted to be electrically and vibration wise, and that kind of was. This was still before we had our condition monitoring team, but we started to throw these results out to management, and they were starting to see the benefit of it. And that was in around 2000, 2001. And in the fall of 2002, we had a new plant manager who'd been there for about 3 months and was seeing the results that this had produced. And he gave me a phone call one evening. It was about 7 o'clock at night. And he said, this is the direction we want to go. We want to do condition monitoring. Then we want that to become a basis of a lot of our maintenance. Are you interested in being a part of that team? And I said, let me think about that for a little while. Yes, I will.
Thank you.
And so within a week, we had transitioned myself into that role, and there was just the two of us, the vibration analyst and myself. And we carried on like that for 3 or 4 months. We were looking at that time for a manager. I wasn't interested in becoming a manager. I'm more of a hands-on kind of person. And I said, I've got some great ideas. If you're interested in who should be a manager of this group. And they said, thank you, we'll ask you if we get that far. So they went outside the company looking for someone, and they did not find a person. So we ended up hiring a good electrical engineer we had in the plant who had actually worked with a fellow from Bombardier Aircraft before, and he became our new manager of condition monitoring. Mm-hmm. And we had some great arguments. He thought things should go one way, I thought they should go another way, but no, in the end we always collaborated, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was the start of our program. So
yeah, all right. And so you got this thing. That's a bit of a path just to get to that point.
Right.
So then let's look at your goal. How have you reached the 12 years? Where are you at with your motors as a rule?
Okay, now I can't tell you exactly where we are with our 12-year right now. I haven't averaged that lately, but I can tell you this, that we build a report card on every one of our motors, all of our critical motors, and it's kind of works like if you've seen your Reader's Digest, possibly how long will you live? And it's a quiz, right? And you check off, yes, I've had, I drink so many drinks a week, and I exercise so many hours a week, and so on and so forth. And at the end, you total up your score, and it says, okay, you're going to live this long. And if you don't like that, well, you can change some things. You can exercise more or whatever, right? Our scorecards work the same way. And so we take our motors, we score them twice a year. We try to do it twice a year. Sometimes it goes a bit longer, but we score them, and we look at our running parameters, where we're running them now. What's the worst we have run them since the last time we tested them, and we put all these scores into this scorecard, and at the bottom we come up with a number that says, if you continue to run your motor in this particular manner, it will last this many more years. And then if we don't like that, because maybe we don't have a shutdown coming up for, say, 2 more years, and it says the motor's going to fail in 1, we have the option to change some parameters of how that motor is run.
So you look at it more on an individual motor basis, based on this report card, not worrying about the average, but we got to address each motor and what it needs to extend the life or get maximum life or however you're trying to achieve. I see that's a little different approach.
Different approach.
Yeah. And as you've gone through this thing, a couple things that you wish you'd done different, or has it pretty much gone the way you expected?
It's things don't always go exactly like you want.
Really?
But when I look back, things have pretty much ended up in the direction I couldn't hope for much more than the way they've gone. Yeah, we've had some blips along the way and some issues, you know. We had one of our vibration analysts who was killed in a car accident, which was a huge blow to our program. That really set us back, not only with our department, but mentally as well. You know, I think it just made everybody sit back a little bit.
Yeah.
Budgets are always a concern, and we've had tough years.
Yeah, I love you said it here. Money isn't everything, but it helps.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
So we've had some tough years where training has been cut back, or maybe some new equipment has been cut back. We've had management change that sometimes they don't believe as much in the program as other managers have. Those are always difficulties, but
you stayed the course.
Through them, right? Yeah.
Yeah. When you talk about management change, and you know that happens to so many, and you hear stories all the time about programs that have literally died because management changed and it just wasn't the backing there anymore. How do you fight through that? How did you get through those kinds of management changes and stay the course?
Early on, and I don't even know exactly why it started, but early on with the first manager that we had back in 2002, it was about the second year in, we decided we needed to do some documentation of how much money we were saving in the company, and I think we started that because we wanted to create new positions, and we couldn't create new positions unless we could prove we were actually saving the money company, the company money, sorry. And
either way.
Yeah.
It works either way.
And so we started to document, okay, if we weren't doing condition monitoring, and let's say it's vibration analysis, if we weren't doing this vibration analysis, this piece of equipment has this going on right now, this kind of vibration. Let's say it's a locked rotor on a coupling. If we weren't doing vibration analysis, what's the chance that somebody else would have picked it up some other way? Just an operator, maybe a really good operator might have picked it up and said, hey, we got something going on here, and somebody would have done something about it. And then we'll say, let's say that comes out at 25%, somebody would have caught it, which still leaves 75% chance that it's going to fail.
Right.
And then we pick the 3 failure modes. You could say, okay, there's a catastrophic failure, there's kind of the middle of the road failure, and then one least expensive to the company. And then we put durations of time to repair out of those, and we put man hours against it, lost generation against it, and we put those all into a spreadsheet, and it's very quick. It's all got drop down boxes, and you can populate it very quickly. And in the end, you come up with an actual number that says, by doing what you did, you saved the company this much money, or you prevented losses of this much. Is really how it works.
Yeah.
So over the years we've refined that, and every month we produce this for the managers, and it works out into many millions of dollars every year. And there's been times when managers have pushed back on us and saying, you know, we just don't believe that the program is worth it. Maybe, you know, so we're not going to send you for training. We're not going to buy this new equipment. And then we trot out our figures
hard to argue with facts.
Yeah.
So that's a little foresight for you early on to collect the data and organize it and communicate. And it always is that communication thing, communicating with management so that when there is a change, it's pretty hard for them to shut you down.
Exactly.
Because basically they're shooting their own bottom line right in the head. Right. Yeah.
And then along with that, the guys on the floor, the millwrights, the machinists and the electricians, a lot of them really bought into our program early on.
Oh.
You know, at first it was curiosity. My guys were sitting kind of in an area where it was high traffic, and the maintenance guys had to go back and forth. And the vibration analysts might be sitting there looking at some squiggly lines, and they'd be curious, and they kind of thought it was a joke at first.
Yeah.
And so, but over time, they were starting to see that when we made a call, we were right. And we never made a call unless we were absolutely sure that there was something going on. because we realized early on, if you make a bad call, everybody knows that. You
Right.
make a good call, and there's 2 or 3 people know, but eventually everybody starts to know.
Yeah.
So we missed a few failures because we knew something was going on, but we didn't know what was going on, and they failed before we were actually able to make that call. We've gotten better at that.
Yeah,
But the guys early on, the guys on the floor, started to realize there was something to it, and that we were actually saving them a lot of work. If we could say to them, we know it's that bearing, it's the inboard bearing, well, they didn't have to take the whole thing apart.
Yep.
They didn't have to look at the outboard bearing because it was the inboard bearing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bought into it. Excuse me. So even when management changed and the supervisors would change, when they got an order that said, go and tear this piece of equipment apart and see what you can do to it, this basically as a PM, they would say, well, what did the condition monitor people say? So they started to drive the work and push it upstairs, right? So
because they knew you were a difference maker in terms of them staying on top of their work orders and not wasting a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And now, after 15 years of our program, shutdowns do not plan their work until they get our input.
Oh.
When new equipment is brought back into the plant after being refurbished or it's brand new and installed, the clearance cannot be picked up by operations until we sign off on the alignment. So it's become a culture now. It's embedded in what we do.
So you become the hub.
We've become
And it's years and years of just being methodical, progression, and making sure that when you make a call, it's backed up with data.
Yeah.
And now you become the go-to people.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And we've been really fortunate. We've had some really good people in our.
Always helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long-term programs. Whenever I hear long-term program, so many of them die at some point along the way. How do you sustain that?
The documentation.
That's your key.
You need to prove, not on a daily basis maybe, but you need to prove on a monthly basis and a yearly basis what your program is worth. And so you have to document your saves. You have to blow your own horn. Unfortunately, you have to blow your own horn.
Yeah.
You have to say, this is what we did for you this month.
Right.
And it's unfortunate you have to do that, but you do.
Yeah. Harvey, thank you. It's a good story. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.